wanted to talk to you about how you can figure out what to do with your major, because you're here, you've got a degree program. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to show you a couple of good websites that you can use that help you to kind of narrow things down a little bit, but also give you some ideas, some things you probably hadn't thought about, because it's always interesting how majors can lead places you hadn't anticipated, and it can open up doors that you hadn't expected either. So what can I do with my major, explore your career? I always recommend, when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, unlike the situation you're in where you haven't really decided on anything, you probably have some general idea of things that interest you. Gravitate towards those things, talk to the professors in those areas, look at the textbooks. I mean, if you're like, well, I'm really interested in science, talk to people who are in the sciences. I'm really interested in business, talk to people in business, because they can give you a better idea of what kinds of opportunities are out there with the degree program that you have. Course descriptions are very important. They give you, just in paragraph form, what you can expect. They tell you what the prerequisite courses are, things you'll have to have before you can take another course. And so that gives you an idea of what you're up against as you go through some of these things. And always ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. People are like, I don't ask that. Somebody might think I don't know what I'm talking about. That's okay. We don't expect you to have the answers on a lot of things. So talk to people within the department. Find out what advice they can give you. Chances are there are people that have been in the field for long enough that they have connections, they have knowledge, they have understanding that goes a lot better than your average person. So always, always ask questions of the department. It's important to remember that a major doesn't always limit you to one specific thing. Now, in some cases, it'll narrow your focus. For instance, nursing is a very specific course. If you are in the nursing program, you're leading into the healthcare industry, probably to be a nurse. There are paths you can veer off of, but not very far. But it's not unusual to find people with degrees working in fields that aren't necessarily representative of their degree. You might find someone who has a degree in 20th century European history who is working as a loan officer in a bank. It's not unusual. And you think, well, 20th century European history, how does that prepare you to be a loan officer? Well, it really doesn't in a lot of ways, but you have coursework that does. You'll have math courses, you'll have finance courses, you'll have economics courses that do give you that background to get into banking. So you're not necessarily going to be forced somewhere based on the degree program. Business administration, if that's your area of interest, what you're majoring in, that's one of those things that can lead to a lot of places you probably hadn't anticipated. And we can get into that here shortly. And finally, as I always remind you of, it's not unusual. In fact, it's more common than you might realize for people to change majors. The only drawback is the further along you go in a program, the more back to beginning, I didn't say that very well, but the back to start that you'll have to do when you change drastically a major. And the longer you'll stay in school, and the more financial requirements you'll have to fulfill. So the further you get into something, you need to start narrowing the field. Early on, it's not unusual to have different ideas, but at some point you got to start narrowing the field and leading towards something. If you're pre-law and then you decide to be pre-med, you probably are going to have to lose a lot of the credits you already had so that you can start taking the sciences. So you've got to keep that in mind as you're choosing a major, as you're looking into your career. What is going to give you the best background? What is going to give you the most usable skills for your chosen field? And here's where it matters, because a lot of people don't realize median income in the United States, the average, there's people that make more, people make less, but the average in the United States without a high school diploma is $25,000 a year. With a family of 4, that's a very, very, very difficult salary to work with. Only having a high school diploma bumps that up almost $10,000. Again, these are averages. That's not always going to be true. But to give you an idea, just having your high school diploma makes a huge difference. And to go one step further beyond that and get your associate degree takes that up to $42,000. The difference is significant, and it's something you always got to keep in mind. Some numbers that are a little bit scary, because it tells you that not everyone has a good handle on what their expectations are. 64% of college students did not complete their bachelor's degree within 4 years. That's a pretty high number. Now, that can be messed up a little bit because some degree programs today actually require 5 years of college. It just depends. But in a lot of cases, that percentage is because people did not do as well as they should have. They did not take it as seriously as they should have. And things delayed them a semester or 2 or even 3. And instead of graduating in 4 years, it took them 4.5 or 5 or even 6. 2 and 5 grads said they thought about job opportunities when they decided what to major in. That means that 3 out of 5 did not think about it. And those are not good numbers. You've got to think about these things. It has to be on your mind. That doesn't mean you have to be like, I know exactly what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Because you may not know that. You have some decisions to make. But at some point, you've got to start thinking, where are my interests? I'm really interested in this. I'm really not interested in this. I should gravitate towards these things. I should stay away from these things. And within time, you start to get a better picture of what you're looking for. 4 out of 10, 37%, say they wish they had chosen a different major. Now, I can give you my own example. I majored in history. I have spent a lot of time as a history teacher. I've also done about 10 other things that aren't even related to history. What I'm doing right now has absolutely no requirement for history. But my background in different fields, different areas, different sectors of the economy, I've done things other than what my major was. I never would have expected that. I mean, if you had asked me at 19 when I was in school, where will you be at 40? I would have said, I'll be a professor, I'll have my PhD, I'll be teaching, whatever. It didn't work out that way. And that's okay. I'm perfectly happy with that. But I've never said, I wish I chose a different major. I'm very, very content with what I chose. It's worked out very well for me. But there are people that say they wish they'd chosen a different major. See, that tells me that something wasn't researched well. Something wasn't advised well. They didn't maybe put as much thought process into this because you're only looking at a couple of years. I mean, if you stay here and get an associate's degree, it's 2 years in most cases. 2 years goes by like that. And so you need to start thinking about those things. And a very important thing to keep in mind for people who take college beyond 2-4 years, 48% said that college debt made their bills harder to pay. It can be very expensive. It took me years to pay off my initial college loans. Before I had even paid off my bachelor's degree, I had gone back and gotten another degree, which I finally paid off recently. But it took me years, about 15 years, to pay off college. It's been worth it to me. It has paid off more than if I hadn't done that. But while I was in that 15-year repayment period and writing that check every month, that was tough. And there were things that I didn't get that I wanted because I had to pay back my college loans. Don't regret it. Never have. Never will. It has paid off. But it's something to keep in mind. The longer you're in school, the more debt you will accrue and the more responsibility you will have to pay that off. So there's some scary numbers there, but I don't want that to distract you. You're here. You've made that first big step. And you're working towards something. That's the important part. Don't let those things bother you. Because I want to show you how you can think about not only the benefits of this, but how to research and how to look into things so that you've got the information you need. And this just gives you a good idea what you're looking for. No degree at all, you can see how that just doesn't really get very far in terms of the amount of compensation you receive from your job. But a bachelor's degree, look at how that climbs, especially after 10 years. Now, this is what people with bachelor's degrees get frustrated with. They're on Facebook, they're looking at their friends that got out of high school, and their high school friends are making the same money they did. They don't have any college loans, they're working jobs. And you think, I've been out of school for 4 years, and I'm making as much money as somebody that didn't even go to college. What's up with that? Look how it breaks off at the 10-year point, and then look how it takes off at the 15-year point. Whereas the no degree just pretty much stays the same. And when you're looking at a long-term, and I'm a long-term person, guys, I think long-term. The stock market's a great example. People look at the stock market today and they say, it's doing this. The stock market is a long-term investment. You look over the long term of decades to see how the stock market has exploded. Yeah, it's had some rough times, but it's higher now than it was 15, 20, 30 years ago. It's a long term. Education is the same way. You can't expect to graduate from college and have the job you want at the salary you want, doing everything you want to do. It doesn't work that way. You've got to think long term. Graduate degree takes it even a step further. And you can see how the line increases greatly. And we're talking about a 30-year span of time, which is a reasonable career span for a job. The longest I ever stayed in one profession was 12 years. Now, I've done other things for a year here, 2 years there, a year and a half here. But long term is what you want to focus on. And that's when you really see that start to explode. Graduates, $25,000 more than those without a 4-year diploma. That is huge. That's $2,000 more a month. I mean, that's a lot of money. So there's motivation there to continue your program and to get your degree and to work into your career. And industries, it makes a difference. Depends on what you're going to do. This particular graph shows you, compared to people in education, how much more money you can make in other fields. And, of course, biotechnology, it's not the kind of thing you just jump into. I mean, there's a lot of science involved. That's a very, very competitive, very narrow field, which is why it pays significantly more. But you can see how business services, 25, 26% more. Healthcare, 23% more. Not to put down education, because this is where I am. I'm in education. That's where I work. But to show you that certain fields have higher income potential. I am never going to be in biotech. It's not my skill area. I'm well aware of that. However, there are a lot of things in here that a lot of people are interested and eligible for. Business services covers just about everything. But you can see there is a good reason to get a degree. It is worth your time. It's worth your money. It's worth the effort, and it's worth spending more time on than some people traditionally do. It's worth going home and spending 2 or 3 hours studying for that test rather than just waiting till the test and winging it. It's worth it because it's short term. Invest the time now. It will pay off in the future. And so it's good, I think, when you can look at some resources. The internet has given us more resources than we've ever had before. There is a drawback to that. We have more resources than we ever had before. It's distracting. If you just Google, what can I do with my major, you will get hundreds of thousands of websites. I know because I tried it. The trick is finding one that's not answers.yahoo.com, which may not be the most focused, useful information. So I'm going to show you 4 websites that you can use. These are real easy to find. You don't even need to worry about writing down the website address, although some of these are pretty easy. If you want to go to the first one, you go to Google or Yahoo or whatever and type in Bureau of Labor Statistics. I think it's BLS.gov. And this is one of these that people are like, this is a really boring website. No, it's not. This is a really useful website. It has more information than you can probably imagine, but it gives you great resources to look at. So I'm going to use one particular example, and I'm going to put in here nurse, because that's an easy one to look up. And you just type in your search bar. You want to search nurse. It's going to be, there we go. And if you click on the first one, usually it's the Occupational Outlook Handbook, Registered Nurses. And this gives you, on these tabs, very good information. And it's like, for instance, well, I'm interested in nursing. What does a nurse do? Well, you click on the What They Do tab, and it gives you a very concise idea of what the average nurse would do on any given day. Well, how do I become a nurse? Click on the How Do I Become One tab, and it'll give you an explanation about what is expected. It's going to tell you, generally, you're going to take courses in nursing, anatomy and physiology, microbiology, chemistry, nutrition, psychology. Hey, if you're like, didn't do very well in chemistry, that does not exclude you from this profession, but understand that that's going to be a big part of what you do in nursing. Typically, it'll say, Bachelor of Science in Nursing programs, that's what BSN is, typically take 4 years. Beyond that, there are other things. An associate degree in nursing or diploma programs, that's just 2 to 3 years, and you can be in the field. Pay, if you're interested in how much it's going to pay, you just click on that tab, and it shows you median, the average. So looking at pretty good salary. Top 10% make very good salary. Even the lowest 10% do pretty well. Entry-level jobs wouldn't be that high. That's the median, but it gives you an idea. And then one of my favorite tabs for really looking at what is available is to look at the Job Outlook tab. Because what it'll tell you is how it's growing over time. If it's increasing greatly, if it's not increasing so much, but it gives you an idea that over time, projected percent change of employment between 2010 and 2020, which is where we are right now, 26% increase in registered nurses. That's phenomenal growth. And that gives you reason to think that if I start a Bachelor of Science in Nursing program right now, in 4 years it'll be 2017, I'll be right in that line, and there will be a great potential for jobs. You can do this with a lot of different careers. It doesn't just have to be something specific. The only drawback to this website is they are looking for less than generic fields. So if you think, I'm interested in business, if you type in business, it's not going to give you a lot of specifics. If you want to know about accounting, being an accountant, then it's perfect. It'll give you really good specifics on that. So I always recommend the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. It's really well laid out, it's very simple, but it's excellent information. And this is government information. This is peer-reviewed. This is not just, let's throw some numbers in here. These are factual, scientifically based statistics. So that's a good one to use. What can I do with this major? I've got two, and these are easy to find, and there's a lot of these. A lot of universities in the United States have as part of their career website how you can use their majors. Now, some of these are specific to the particular school, like even going so far as to giving you specific courses you should take from the school. That's not really going to be a huge help to you here, but what I like about it is how it shows you what the careers can be used for. So I used accounting earlier, just because it's the first one. We'll click on that one. So accounting. What can I do with major? Here I am in college, I am majoring in accounting. What in the world am I going to do with it? So it shows you have some options. Public accounting, and there it gives you, that's auditing, looking over the books of organizations. Keeping up with tax law, which is a huge deal. Environmental accounting, which some people don't necessarily think of, but that's a good one. Forensic accounting, the police, the FBI, looking into accounts of businesses and individuals, trying to find evidence for court. International, financial, it goes on from that. It will give you a lot of ideas of where you might be employed. I can tell you that accounting is one of those things, it's like computer repair. Accountants are used all over the place. They're critically important to business, and more businesses than most people probably realize. Computer repair, if you're into that, everybody uses computers. That's not a narrow field. So there is big demand for that. And it'll tell you beyond there who you're looking for. See, like the FBI. If you have interest in federal law enforcement, an accounting degree is a great place to go for that. And it goes on from that. Hospitals, social services, public school systems have accountants. You don't think of it, but they do. So this is a great website for showing you a bunch of different majors and how you can use those majors to your advantage in finding a job. There's construction science, education, finance, food science, geology, human resources, kinesiology. There's an extensive amount on this one. All right, I'll show you one more of these. What can I do with my major websites? This one's set up a little bit different. I think it's a little bit easier to see because they're just listed out instead of in the boxes like the other one was. But let's just say that you are interested in engineering. If you click on the information link, it's only running slow because I'm waiting for it. Otherwise, it would have been right open. Engineering, what can you do? All right, so there's different areas, different employers that would require engineers. And then it gives you some great examples of things you can do to increase your skills and make you more marketable in that field. There are many things that people don't think about in terms of all kinds of careers. There are ways to take a career somewhere that you never anticipated. And you will find that in a lot of cases based on what you major in that years down the road, you may be very far afield of what your expectations were. So that is not unusual. And then finally, the last one I want to show you, the last website, is a good one for telling you, similar to what we've talked about already, but giving you maybe some more specifics on that. And it's got a lot of similarities to that too, but it actually breaks it down by discipline. So if you're in the social sciences, here's international relations, psychology. If you're thinking about professional or vocational, here's education or law and legal studies. Breaks it down in a manageable way that gives you maybe a better understanding or a better snapshot of what you're looking for in a major. It is difficult, I know, to choose a major. As we talked about in the last session, you want to think about your strengths and weaknesses. You want to think about your interests. You want to think about your skills. If you really like working around a lot of people, that's good to know. If you don't, that's good to know too, because some majors are going to require a lot of interaction and some won't in your job. So it is good to look up these resources, figure out what is available in terms of the next 10 years. Bureau of Labor Statistics is great for that. Figure out what you can do with a specific major, one that's going to focus to your strengths and interests. And then how you can use that major to get a job, to get a career, to move on where you need to be. It's not easy, I know. And sometimes it's a little daunting because you're trying to narrow it down and you feel a lot of pressure. I got to register for these classes. I got to do this. And we're starting spring registration in a couple of months. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. Don't let that get to you. Take your time, do the research, talk to people in the field, and you'll have a great idea of what you need to be doing.